It almost feels like someone saw the future before anyone else did. A small Olympic exhibition moment between Riku Miura and Kaori Sakamoto has suddenly become one of those memories that fans cannot watch the same way twice. At first, there was nothing mysterious about it. Two Japanese figure skaters had finished an enormous Olympic chapter. The pressure had finally eased, and they were simply enjoying a playful moment away from competition. Sakamoto gently placed a floral crown on Miura's head. The two smiled, and they shared a warm hug. Then Miura took the crown and placed it on Sakamoto's head in return. It lasted only seconds. Nobody in that moment knew what the future would bring. Yet months later, after major changes in both women's lives, that tiny exchange suddenly looks almost symbolic. The timing is what made fans stop and look twice. Shortly after Miura and Ryuichi Kihara announced their engagement, the official Olympic Japanese language Instagram account brought the old exhibition footage back into the spotlight. Suddenly, viewers were watching the same scene with completely different eyes. Sakamoto had placed the crown on Miura, and Miura had returned it. One friend giving a crown to another is a sweet image on its own, but after Sakamoto's marriage news and Miura's engagement, fans began joking that they had witnessed a kind of bridal baton. It was not a prediction, of course, and there is no reason to pretend it was. The beauty comes from the coincidence. The meaning arrived later, after life had already moved forward. That is why this story feels so human. We often understand our memories differently after time has passed. A photograph that seemed ordinary can become precious. A conversation that felt casual can become unforgettable. A simple hug can suddenly remind us of an entire period of our lives. The people inside the moment usually do not know what it will mean later. They are just living. That appears to be exactly what Miura and Sakamoto were doing here. They were not creating a headline. They were not trying to send a message. They were simply two athletes sharing a happy second after years of understanding the same demanding world. During competition, fans usually see a completely different side of them. Miura is focused on every detail of her performance, while Sakamoto carries the concentration expected from a skater competing at the highest level. Their faces can become serious because every jump, spin, step, and landing matters. The pressure is real. Years of preparation can come down to a few minutes on the ice. But an exhibition has a different atmosphere. The results are no longer hanging over every movement. The athletes can breathe. They can laugh. They can look around and remember that skating is also supposed to be joyful. That freedom is visible in this clip, and it may be one reason the moment feels so genuine. Miura and Sakamoto also understand something about each other that many people outside elite sport never can. Their disciplines are different, but both have spent years carrying Japanese expectations onto the international stage. They know what it means to train while exhausted, to compete while nervous, to recover after disappointment, and to return when the easiest choice would be to stop. They know the strange feeling of being surrounded by cameras while privately dealing with pressure that nobody watching from home can fully see. That shared experience can create a quiet kind of respect. Sometimes athletes do not need a long conversation to understand one another. A smile or a hug can communicate more than words. The Olympic setting made the scene even more powerful. The games are built around huge dreams, but athletes experience them 1 minute at a time. They arrive after years of preparation, compete under extraordinary pressure, and then suddenly the event is over. After all the training, travel, nerves, and expectations, there can be a strange emptiness when the final performance ends. The exhibition gives skaters a chance to release some of that pressure. In this case, the crown exchange captured exactly that feeling. The women were no longer simply competitors being judged. They were friends celebrating a shared experience. Their smiles were relaxed, and their interaction felt spontaneous. For Miura and Kihara, Milano Cortina represented a major point in a journey that had already included years of sacrifice. Their partnership had survived difficult seasons, physical setbacks, demanding training, and the constant pressure of being one of Japan's leading pairs. Reaching the Olympic podium was not just about one competition. It represented everything that had come before it. Every early practice, every recovery session, every difficult performance, And every decision to keep going had led toward moments like that. When fans look at Miura now, especially after the engagement announcement, they are not seeing only an athlete who won medals. They are seeing someone who has entered a completely new chapter. That transition is important because elite athletes spend so much of their lives thinking about the next event. There is always another competition, another program to improve, another technical detail to fix, another goal waiting on the calendar. Then one day, the rhythm changes. The athlete begins asking different questions. What comes next? How can all those years of experience be used? What kind of life can be built beyond the result sheet? Miura and Kihara have the opportunity to answer those questions through professional skating, creative work, performances, and possibly mentorship. Their competitive experience does not disappear. It becomes something they can carry into the next stage. Sakamoto is also moving through her own transition. For years, she has been one of the most recognizable faces in Japanese skating, competing under pressure and setting an example for younger athletes. A career at that level creates knowledge that cannot be learned from a textbook. It teaches discipline, emotional control, recovery, preparation, and the ability to respond when things go wrong. Those lessons can become valuable long after competition. If Sakamoto eventually takes on a stronger mentoring or coaching role, she will be able to pass along lessons that came from real experience. In that sense, her story is changing, not ending. This is where the old video becomes surprisingly fitting. Both Miura and Sakamoto were standing at the edge of new chapters, even though neither could see them yet. They were still athletes in the Olympic environment. They were still surrounded by the excitement of competition. But life was already preparing to move them somewhere else. The floral crown exchange now looks like a tiny visual metaphor for that transition. Sakamoto placed the crown on Miura. Miura returned it. They laughed, hugged, and moved on. Months later, both had experienced major personal changes. The gesture did not cause those events, but hindsight makes the timing feel almost poetic. Fans naturally wanted to talk about it. Social media reactions were full of congratulations, affection, and surprise. Some people called the scene adorable. Others said the crown looked like a bridal baton. Many simply said they had replayed the clip because the two looked so happy together. That reaction is revealing because it shows what supporters remember about athletes. They remember the medals, certainly, but they also remember personality. They remember the smiles after a performance. They remember friendships between competitors. They remember the little gestures that make elite athletes feel human rather than distant. There is something especially appealing about a moment that was not obviously designed for attention. Modern sports are surrounded by cameras, interviews, sponsorships, and carefully prepared content, but the moments fans treasure most can still be completely spontaneous. The crown exchange feels that way. Nobody appears to be performing for the camera. Nobody is delivering a dramatic speech. There is no obvious attempt to create a viral moment. There is just a simple interaction between two people who seem comfortable around each other. That authenticity matters. Viewers can sense when a moment feels natural, and natural moments are often the ones that create the strongest emotional response. It is also worth remembering that neither woman could see the future. When the footage was recorded, the engagement announcement had not happened. Sakamoto's later marriage had not happened. Fans did not yet have the context that now surrounds the clip. That is why calling it a prediction would miss the point. It was not a prophecy. It was a normal moment that gained extraordinary meaning later. The distinction makes the story more touching, not less. Life did not follow a script. The script was created afterward by the sequence of real events. That is something every viewer can understand. We all have memories that changed meaning over time. Maybe there was a final lunch with a friend before someone moved away. Maybe there was a family photograph taken before life changed. Maybe there was a joke that seemed meaningless until years later. At the time, nobody knew it would become important. The same thing happens in sport. Athletes are constantly creating memories without realizing which ones will survive. A medal ceremony is obviously important, but sometimes a tiny interaction becomes just as unforgettable because it captures who they were when nobody was asking them to perform. The crown exchange captures that human side of skating better than a score ever could. A score tells us how well an athlete performed. A medal tells us where they finished. A ranking tells us how they compared with others. But none of those numbers can tell us what it felt like to laugh with a friend after the pressure was over. They cannot measure the comfort of a hug. They cannot explain why a particular smile stays in someone's memory. Sports statistics are essential, but they are not the whole story. The emotional history of a career lives in moments like this one. Miura's journey with Kihara makes that emotional history even richer. Their partnership was built over years rather than a single season. They learned how to trust one another in situations where hesitation can be dangerous. They learned how to communicate without words, how to recover from mistakes, and how to continue when expectations became overwhelming. Their success came from much more than talent. It came from repetition, patience, trust, and the willingness to keep rebuilding after difficult moments. That is why their engagement carries such emotional weight for longtime supporters. Fans are not reacting to a random announcement. They are reacting to a relationship that has been part of their skating story for years. Sakamoto's journey has its own kind of significance. She has represented Japan through multiple stages of her career and has experienced the pressure that comes with becoming a leading figure in the sport. Her success has not been accidental. It has required consistency, mental strength, and the ability to continue evolving. She has also watched the sport around her change. Younger skaters have arrived, expectations have shifted, and new stars have emerged. Now, as her own life enters another stage, the knowledge she carries can become part of the future of Japanese skating. That makes her connection with Miura especially interesting. They may be moving in different directions, but both have something valuable to pass forward. Perhaps that is why the phrase, "passing happiness," feels more appropriate than predicting the future. The crown moved from one friend to another, and later their lives each reached a new milestone. The image is simple enough to understand instantly. One person receives a symbol of celebration, then returns it. Nobody loses anything. Happiness is shared. Friendship becomes the bridge. Fans turn that visual into a playful story about a bridal baton, but underneath the joke is a sincere feeling. People are happy to see athletes they have supported find happiness beyond competition. That emotional response also shows how deeply figure skating connects athletes and fans. Skating is an individual sport in many disciplines, yet the journey is never truly individual. Coaches, teammates, families, training partners, choreographers, medical teams, and fellow competitors all become part of the story. Athletes spend years surrounded by people who understand their routines and sacrifices. Friendships develop because the same people are often there through the hardest days. When careers change, those relationships can remain. A competition may last 4 minutes, but the relationships behind it can last decades. The Olympic exhibition was therefore more than entertainment. It was a celebration after an intense period. The athletes could finally let their guard down. They could laugh without thinking about scores. They could enjoy the crowd and each other. For viewers, those moments can be just as satisfying as the competition itself because they reveal a side that is normally hidden. When Sakamoto placed the crown on Miura, she was not thinking about how the image would look months later. Miura was not thinking about future headlines when she returned it. They were simply enjoying a moment together. That is exactly why the scene has such warmth. And then life did what life always does. It kept moving. The Olympic excitement faded. New announcements arrived. Careers began to shift. Personal lives changed. The same people who had been focused on competition were suddenly thinking about entirely different futures. That is why old footage can become emotional. It freezes a moment before change. When you watch it later, you know something the people inside the frame did not know. You know what was coming. You know which chapter was about to close. You know which new chapter was waiting. That creates a strange emotional distance between the viewer and the people on screen. In this case, that distance is filled with affection rather than sadness. Fans are not looking at the old footage and wishing the past could return. They are celebrating what came after it. Sakamoto found a new personal chapter, and Miura and Kihara announced their engagement. Their competitive achievements remain, but now there is another kind of happiness to celebrate. That is a beautiful evolution for athletes whose lives have been dominated by competition. After spending years chasing perfection, they can finally make room for experiences that have nothing to do with scores. For Miura and Kihara, the next stage could also allow them to influence the sport in a different way. Their experience as a pair gives them insight into areas that younger skaters may struggle with: communication, trust, performance pressure, physical preparation, and the mental challenge of competing together. If they share those lessons, they can help strengthen the next generation of Japanese pairs. Their legacy could therefore become larger than their medals. It could include the athletes they inspire, the performances they create, and the knowledge they pass on. That is what a true sporting legacy can look like after competition ends. Sakamoto can play a similar role. The younger generation can learn from the way she handled pressure, maintained consistency, and continued to compete at an elite level. Her experience gives her a perspective that only years at the top can provide. Whether through coaching, mentoring, appearances, or other work within skating, she has the potential to remain influential. That means the connection between these athletes does not have to disappear simply because their competitive roles change. The same skating world that brought them together can continue connecting them in new ways. There is also a quiet lesson here about appreciating people while they are still writing their stories. Fans sometimes speak about athletes as if their careers are already complete, but the people themselves are constantly changing. A champion can become a mentor. A competitor can become a coach. A teammate can become a lifelong friend. A skating partner can become a life partner. The labels evolve because real life evolves. Miura's engagement is a reminder that the person fans first discovered through competition is still growing beyond the rink. Sakamoto's new chapter carries the same message. The old Olympic video now sits somewhere between those identities. It shows Miura as an athlete, but viewers now also know her as someone beginning a new personal chapter. It shows Sakamoto as a competitor, but viewers also know she has entered a new stage of life. The footage has not changed, yet the people watching it have changed because they now know more of the story. That is the strange power of hindsight. The past remains exactly where it was, but our understanding of it keeps moving. Maybe that is why fans keep replaying the clip. It gives them a chance to revisit a happier, simpler moment while knowing how much has happened since. They can watch the two women smile and remember the Olympic atmosphere. They can see the crown and think about the later announcements. They can laugh at the coincidence while also appreciating the genuine friendship on display. It is both lighthearted and emotional at the same time. That combination is difficult to create intentionally, which makes it even more valuable when it happens naturally. There is no need to exaggerate the moment into something it was never meant to be. The strongest version of this story is actually the simplest one. Two athletes shared a playful exchange. Months later, their lives changed in ways that made the exchange feel strangely symbolic. Fans noticed. They smiled. They celebrated. And an ordinary Olympic memory became a story about new beginnings. That is enough. In fact, keeping the story grounded makes it more believable and more moving. Real life does not need a dramatic twist every few seconds. Sometimes a quiet coincidence is more powerful than a manufactured surprise. Still, the timing is hard to ignore. The video resurfaced just after Miura and Kihara announced their engagement, and the scene immediately showed Miura receiving a floral crown from Sakamoto. Then came the return gesture. It creates a visual loop that almost tells the entire story without words. Give happiness. Receive happiness. Share happiness. Move forward. When fans attached the idea of a bridal baton to the moment, they were responding to that simple visual language. It was a playful interpretation, but it also captured the warmth of what they were seeing. For longtime followers, there is another layer, the feeling of watching an era change. Japanese figure skating has produced many unforgettable athletes, but every generation eventually reaches a turning point. Stars who once seemed inseparable from competition begin exploring life beyond it. Younger skaters step forward. New stories begin. The athletes who shaped the previous era become the people the next generation looks up to. Miura, Kihara, and Sakamoto are now part of that transition. Their accomplishments will remain part of Japanese skating history, but their influence can continue in different forms. That makes the Olympic exhibition footage feel almost like a photograph from the end of one chapter. The athletes were celebrating in the moment, unaware that they were about to become part of a different story. The competitive world would keep moving. Their personal lives would keep developing. New opportunities would appear. Yet the camera captured them exactly as they were, relaxed, happy, and connected. That snapshot will not change. It will remain a reminder of a time when the future was still unknown. And maybe that is what makes the moment relatable even to people who know nothing about figure skating. Everyone understands the feeling of looking back and realizing that a moment mattered more than you knew. Everyone has experienced some version of, "if I had only known." If we knew which goodbye was the last goodbye, which photograph would become important, or which ordinary afternoon would later become a treasured memory, we might pay closer attention. But life does not give us that information. We have to live the moment without knowing. Miura and Sakamoto did exactly that. They laughed, shared a crown, hugged, and continued their day. Now fans get to look back for them. They can see the joy that was there before the future arrived. They can celebrate the fact that both women have found new reasons to smile. They can appreciate that their stories are not frozen by their competitive achievements. And they can enjoy the irony that a tiny floral crown exchange now feels like one of those moments that somehow arrived before its own meaning. That does not make it supernatural. It makes it human. We create memories first and understand them later. The same idea applies to Miura and Kihara's relationship. Fans watched their partnership develop through years of competition, and many saw the trust between them grow. Their engagement announcement therefore feels like another step in a story that has already been unfolding for a long time. The skating partnership and personal relationship are connected by shared history, but the engagement also marks something beyond sport. It represents a future that belongs to them away from judges, scores, and podiums. After so many years of skating together, they now have the opportunity to build a different kind of life together. Sakamoto's marriage announcement carries a similar sense of personal growth. For fans who knew her primarily as a competitor, the news offers a reminder that there is an entire person beyond the rink. Athletes may become public figures, but their lives contain private hopes and milestones that have nothing to do with competition. When those moments become public, supporters naturally want to celebrate. The Olympic exhibition clip connects those personal stories in an unexpectedly gentle way. It shows Sakamoto and Miura sharing happiness before either had publicly revealed what their futures would hold. The more you think about it, the more the crown becomes a surprisingly fitting object for the story. A crown normally represents celebration, achievement, or royalty. In skating, athletes are constantly chasing the top position, the highest score, the biggest title. But here, the crown is not about winning. It is about sharing. Sakamoto gives it to Miura, Miura gives it back, and both smile. The meaning is not one person wins and another loses. It is, we can celebrate each other. That message feels especially appropriate for two athletes who have spent so much of their careers competing in a world where every result creates winners and losers. Maybe that is the detail fans responded to most strongly. The exchange does not feel competitive. There is no rivalry in it. There is no attempt to outshine the other person. There is simply affection. After years of competition, that kind of moment can feel refreshing. It reminds us that athletes can compete fiercely and still respect one another deeply. They can chase their own goals while celebrating another person's happiness. The crown becomes a tiny symbol of that attitude. It moves between them without conflict, as if happiness becomes larger when it is shared. There is also something beautiful about the fact that the clip came from an exhibition rather than a medal ceremony. Medal ceremonies are carefully structured and emotionally huge, but they are also formal. Everyone knows where to stand, what happens next, and what the moment represents. The floral crown exchange is different. It feels loose and personal. The athletes have room to react naturally. And it feels real.